Okay, welcome to analyzing endocrine disorders. Here's the situation. We have 5 patients. I have collected blood samples and urine samples from all 5 patients. We're going to carry out a series of tests on the samples, and based on the data, you are going to decide what condition each of these patients has. First thing we're going to do is look at the urine samples. So let's take a look over here. I've got 5 samples, one from each patient, A, B, C, D, and E. And here are the blood samples. Again, one from each patient, A, B, C. Before we begin, it is assumed that you have already written in your lab notebook a table to put your observations in. It doesn't have to be fancy, it can be just like the one in your lab manual. First thing we're going to do is just examine the appearance of the urine. Okay, we're going to look at each sample, A to E, in turn, and all you're looking for is color and clarity. Okay, so we'll start with A. Take a look at sample B. Sample C. Sample D. And lastly, sample E. Okay, the next test we're going to do on the urine samples is the flame test. The flame test tests specifically for sodium ions. Okay, so we'll start with sample A. What we're going to do is take our little apparatus here, dip it in the urine sample, put it in the flame. If there's no sodium in the urine, it should look mostly blue. You might see a little flicker of red, but it will be mostly blue. If you see a very distinct orange-red flame, that is indicative of sodium in the urine. Here, live, it appears orange. For whatever reason, on film, it looks red, as you'll see. We'll start with sample A. Okay, little flicker of orange, but for the most part, that stayed blue. Try sample B. Again, that one stayed blue. Sample C. Okay, that was clearly not blue. Sample D. Blue. And lastly, sample E. Blue. Excellent. So that was testing for the presence of sodium. We're now going to test for the presence of sugar, presence of glucose in the urine. What we're going to do for this one is test each of these urine samples with Benedict's solution. As you can see, I've already labeled 5 test tubes, A to E. In each test tube, I have put a little bit of Benedict's solution in them. I'm going to take one of each of these samples, put them in the appropriate test tube, and then we're going to heat them up. A positive test for this kind of Benedict's solution is going to look white and a little more cloudy than the other samples. So let's begin. A little bit of A. B. C. D. And lastly, E. All right, now we're going to put all of our test tubes into hot water. We're going to flow hot water in there. That's okay. And we're going to let them sit for a little while. And in about 5 minutes, we are going to take a look at the results and see which one indicates glucose in the urine. Okay, the next test we're going to do while we're waiting for the results of the Benedict's test is the glucose test. We're going to test all of these blood samples, A to E, for the presence of glucose, and we're going to measure glucose concentration. So we'll start with A. We'll take a little drop of A. Put it on our wax paper. We're going to use a glucose monitor to test for glucose concentration. Okay, glucose monitor looks like this. And what I need to do is take a test strip, insert it so the chip goes up into the meter like this. Okay, and I'll wait for the code. There it is, and I'm going to wait until it tells me I can go ahead and test. There it is, and we're going to dip it in the sample. And now we wait for the results. Okay, that's sample A. All right, let's take a look at sample B. Put it right beside sample A. And wait till it tells me it's ready to test. And let's try. Okay, there's the result. Okay, let's move on to sample C. Put it right beside A and B. And dip it in. There we are. All right, moving on, let's test sample D.
Okay, pull that out. Okay, thanks. Bye.
There's the results. And last sample. Sample E. And the results of sample E. All right. The only thing we have left to do is to check our results for the Benedict's test, which tested, of course, for the presence of glucose. So let's take these out one at a time, and we'll put the samples in the test tube rack. Again, what we're looking for is a cloudy appearance. What we're looking for is the formation of a precipitate, which indicates the presence of glucose. So let's find test tube A. What you're looking for is a cloudy color. Cloudy, almost white. And that, to me, looks like a negative test. Okay, let's find number B. Again, what we're looking for is the formation of a precipitate, a cloudier, whiter appearance. Compare this one to the first one, which was negative. I think we can clearly see that is definitely more cloudy. There is the formation of a precipitate there. That is a positive test. Let's take a look at number C. That looks pretty clear. Let's look at D. And lastly, we'll look at E. So once again, if you want to compare the 5 samples, A, B, C, D, and E, we're looking at formation of precipitate. We're looking at a sample that should be cloudier than the others, and that would indicate glucose. Okay, so we're now completing the lab. What you have to do now is fill in all of the data from this lab in a table in your lab notebook, and you have to complete the analysis section in the learning guide for this lab, and of course get it signed by a teacher. Thank you very much.